Yeah.
Welcome, golfers, to the 22nd episode of the Read It, Roll It, Hole It podcast. Today, super excited to have a special guest, Ryan Fox, on the call. Hi, Ryan.
How you doing, Ollie?
Yeah, very well, thanks. And yourself?
A little tired, to be fair, but I'm doing all right.
I'm sure. So, we're currently filming this or shooting this in in between Christmas and New Year. So, tell everyone the news that happened just before Christmas.
Yeah, so we had our first child on the 18th of December. So, like most new parents, sleep's a premium at the moment, and we're having a little bit of a difficult night so far as well. She's hasn't wanted to settle too much tonight, and probably a bit too much stimulation around Christmas. So hopefully we can get her to bed at some point tonight, and Mum and Dad can get some sleep.
Yeah, those days were you'll remember them well. The being able to sleep, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Through my experience, it does get a little bit better, so you'll be all right.
I hope so.
Excellent. So, how has like things changed for you being a father? Like, has anything sort of changed? Obviously, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I mean, obviously your whole world changes with, you've now got someone that didn't exist for us a week and a half ago that's now taking most of our attention, and still getting used to that. But it's a pretty cool experience. And I guess in terms of the golf side of things, we still got to work out what's going on. Obviously, we've got this thing called COVID as well, which is having a pretty massive impact on things. So, in normal situation, it might be, all right to, to have a baby and be able to travel and everything like that. But, with how things are looking at the moment, schedule-wise, it looks a little bit different with the COVID travel, along with having a little one and stuff like that. So scheduling and all of that stuff's going to be pretty difficult next year, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Will you plan to sort of, well, if you can, take your wife and little girl with you a lot of the time, if you can?
Yeah, I mean, the first part of the year, obviously not. I'll go to the Middle East in January by myself. And, the frustrating thing for me is we've got this 2-week quarantine thing in New Zealand, which is obviously great once you're in New Zealand and everything feels relatively normal. But, getting in and out's pretty getting in's pretty brutal at the moment. So I've kind of got to pick and choose when I travel. And, the Middle East events are obviously too good to miss at the start of next year. And, the plan is all going well for us to come up and stay at our place in the UK and be based up there, sort of come April time. But I guess with the position the UK is in at the moment, I'm not sure my wife would be prepared to take our young one up there. So I guess we'll deal with that when we come to it. But I guess like 2020 was, I think 2021 is going to be a bit of a moving target in terms of schedule and everything like that. I know the European Tour's got a schedule out, but you don't know how things can change in that respect. If things get worse or if things get better, hopefully things get better and everything gets a bit easier. But if, things get worse, it might get a bit harder, for a little while first.
Yeah, for sure. It's just crazy times, isn't it? And a logistic nightmare for you going into next year, for God's sake. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly is, especially being down here. Obviously we've done a great job in a COVID sense, but I think the New Zealanders and the Australians on tour are almost getting punished a little bit for it because we want to be able to go home, and a lot of people travel from home. I normally do the first sort of third of the year traveling out of New Zealand, and that's obviously getting harder and harder to do, and Aussie's the same. So hopefully this vaccine sorts itself out and sorts COVID out, and we can get back to doing a little bit of normal travel, which would be very, very nice.
Absolutely. Do you normally play in the Aussie Open and the Vic Open in the start of the year as well?
It's normally a pretty nice schedule for me. I'm normally back home over summer, and then over the Christmas, New Year break, generally take most of December off, and then get back into it and head up to the Middle East and then back for those Aussie events, which, the Vic Open in Perth were normally in February, and it was kind of a nice little run to play 3 in the Middle East, some in Aussie, and then come home and play. Normally the New Zealand Open was on early March, and then I'd have a little bit of a break again before heading back to Europe in April. But with the COVID situation again, all those big Aussie events have been canned, and it sort of thins the schedule out a little bit for me at the start of next year. And as I said, I kind of got to pick and choose when I travel as well with the quarantine situation. So it might be three and done for me for a little while at the start of the year, unfortunately.
No, it's a shame. Those Aussie events are good. I've always enjoyed them. The Vic Open.
Yeah, they are. They've treated me pretty well over the years. Vic at the start of the Vic Open at the start of this year, and obviously Perth in 2019. So, hopefully they get back on the schedule for, I guess end of 2021, 2022 season, because I know a lot of guys enjoy coming down, and I certainly enjoy playing those events as well.
Absolutely, and that's your first victory on the European Tour, was last year at Perth.
Yeah, it was. It was certainly nice to get over the line. I'd gone, very close once, and had a couple of other sort of outside chances. So it was certainly nice to get the job done in Perth last year.
Get in there. Good. Okay, Ryan, can you sort of give myself and the listeners a bit of an insight on what I was going to say a normal week on tour, but let's say like in Europe, like an English event or something like that, or just a normal week. Give us an insight of like typically when you arrive, what those days leading up to the tournament look like. What does that look like? Your team, who do you sort of take with you? Who is your team, etc.?
Yeah. So I guess a normal week for me would be, I travel on a Monday. Monday's generally a day off unless, I've missed the cut the week before and sort of on the road for a few weeks. But, on a normal week, Monday would be a travel day and completely off. And then maybe even, if it was a UK event and I could drive to it, it might even be a whole Monday off and drive or fly on a Tuesday morning. And then I guess Tuesday and Wednesday depend on if you're in the Pro-Am or not, and normal circumstances, if you will. So, if I'm in the Pro-Am, I'll do a little bit of practice and some drills and stuff on Tuesday, and then Wednesday will be the Pro-Am and just do a little bit of work around that, and obviously get into it on Thursday. And generally on my day off on Monday, I like to do sort of a heavier gym session. That gives me enough time to sort of recover. I don't like the feeling of being tight or being sore during the week and tournament days. And then I'll try to do at least one other sort of light golf specific mobility session during the week, depending on how I feel. For me personally, I feel like I'd rather save my energy in that regard if I've had a few weeks in a row on the road and that gym session feels a little bit too hard. I'd probably rather just sit in my hotel room and have a nap or something like that. But in an ideal world, you'd be sort of one heavy and two maybe lightish gym sessions, or at least one lightish gym session throughout the week. And I don't really have a set routine too much in tournament days in terms of what I do after a round or anything like that. I obviously got my set warm up, which is normally about an hour before, a little bit of a dynamic warm up, and then do some technical putting stuff on the green, and then hit balls, chip, putt, and then go. That process doesn't normally take too long. And for me, after that, it's depending on how I've played during the day. If I've played great and everything feels really good, again, I'll prefer to save my energy than stand on the range and beat balls or do some, spend an hour or hour and a half on the putting green. But if there's something that I felt like I can do a bit better that day, then I'll go and spend some time on until I'm kind of happy. And some days that might be 10 minutes. Some days it might be an hour, depending on what it is. And there are some days if you play really, really bad, it's better to just leave and think about something else for a while. But I guess that would be my normal routine. And I guess who I've normally got for a week is obviously caddy, probably one of the most important parts of the team. And, my manager, Ian Keenan, in normal circumstances would come to probably half the events I play. He's got Joost Luiten, Shabanka Sharma, and Ben Arn, who plays on the PGA Tour. So he splits his time between us. And if it's a big European event, then he'll be with Joost and Shabanka and myself at the event, and he'll obviously spend some time at the bigger PGA Tour events with Ben as well. I've got a physio who I share with Joost and Bernd Wiesberger as well, who again travels to probably 10 to 12 events a year. Again, they're generally the bigger events. So if he's around, I generally spend an hour to an hour and a half with him every day during tournament weeks. Obviously, part of the warm up before playing, and then also do a bit of stuff with him after the round. And that my first year on tour, I really struggled body wise. We're playing 30 events a year, and having a private physio that you get some proper time with made a massive difference. And certainly someone that would be part of my team, going forward for a long time. And then, the only other person that will normally travel to an event will be Marcus, my coach, but he's based in New Zealand. So, he might come to 6 or 7 events a year and might pick a tournament where I've got a week off beforehand, come up to London, do some practice at Fox Hills where I'm based there, and then we'll head to an event, and he'll probably stay for the practice days to the event and maybe watch the first round and then go home. So logistically, being from New Zealand, it can be a little bit hard at times, but I've worked with Marcus for the last, I'll probably get this wrong, 8 years or 9 years or something like that. So he knows my game inside out. We've got pretty good at doing stuff over the phone and over FaceTime and all of that stuff. Technology makes a massive difference these days with that. And again, in normal circumstances, my wife would normally travel most weeks. I guess I noticed this year being up in the UK swing events, I did 12 weeks on my own. And I certainly noticed a difference. I didn't like my own company quite as much on tour or didn't enjoy it as much on tour in my own company as I normally do. So, most weeks she will play. She will travel with me, and she's got a lot of friends on tour as well. And normally there's a few of the other girls that travel. So we normally have a pretty good time socially in terms of going out to dinner and catching up with people. And that certainly makes the weeks a little less monotonous at times.
Yeah, I bet 12 weeks on your own must be tough, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was strange. I mean, obviously, in April we never knew we didn't know if we were going to play again for the rest of the year. And then obviously those events, the UK swing events, started up in July this year. I sort of made the call going, well, if I don't go up and play some of them, I might not play for the rest of the year. And I knew I was in the US Open at that point. And obviously Wentworth and Scottish Open and stuff like that were looking like they were going to be on the schedule. So I didn't want to miss those. And so, with the quarantine back home, I certainly didn't want to do, go up for 4 events and come home and then have to go up for another 4 and basically lose 4 weeks of my life sitting in a hotel room in New Zealand. So we made the call that a 12-week trip was doable. And that was probably my limit at the end of it. I played 11 tournaments and took I took the Valderrama week off, I think, one of those weeks in the middle off, but played 6 in a row, all in the UK. Then took a week off, played Portugal, US Open, Ireland, Scotland, and Wentworth in a row, and then jumped on a plane and did 2 weeks of quarantine when I got home. So it was effectively a 14-week trip. And I, as I said, I probably didn't enjoy my own company as much as I thought I would. And, it was certainly be nice going forward to get back to some kind of normal and have the family be able to travel at some point next year and come to events and, do some of that social stuff that, I know a lot of people enjoy at tournaments.
Yeah, I bet. Great. Okay, that's fab. You mentioned Fox Hills. That's a pretty cool place, isn't it? That's where you're based in London.
Yeah, it is. I've been there ever since I started on Challenge Tour in 2015. So I think I did a little bit of practice out there in 2015, and then we moved sort of moved to London for 6 months in 2016 when I was playing Challenge Tour full time, and Fox Hills was nice enough to let me play and practice out there, and I've really enjoyed being out there. It's a great facility, 36 holes. They've got the little 9-hole par 3 course, which I spend a lot of time on. It's absolutely brutal, that course. A lot of fun to play, and I certainly noticed if I spent a week out there, my wedge play gets a whole lot better, which is nice. And they got a great gym facility there as well, so I can kind of make a whole day of it, get to go to the gym, do a little bit of practice, get on the course. And normally I like to play with the pros there. They got a really good bunch of pros and assistant pros there, so we normally try to sort out a game in the summer after they finish work, and grab a cart and try to get around in a couple, 2 or 3 hours after work, which is really good fun.
Nice. No, that's good. It's I was there last week with Mark Bullies. He coaches out there, so it's a good old place. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I mean they've done a great job. They got the chipping green there now. The range is decent enough, and I guess for me the golf courses are quite different. I think Long Cross is pretty tight and strategic, and I feel like Bernard I can kind of just get driver out and give it a bit of a bash around, and it's kind of nice to be able to mix it up a little bit. And it's not long, but it's pretty tight, and you've certainly got to hit some shots around both of the courses.
Love it. That's cool. It was I was very fortunate a couple of years ago to meet Marcus as well over in the UK. Marcus Wales.
Yeah, he's a good man. He spent a lot of time over there as well playing. He played Challenge Tour for quite a few years as well.
Yeah, decent player, wasn't he? I think by the sounds of it. But
I think he was world number 1 amateur back when Tiger was an amateur.
Oh, really?
So he was a proper player back in the day, and had an almost professional career. He probably played for 12 or 14 years on various tours around the world, and never quite cracked it, but was always good enough to keep going. And you can see that in his coaching. He certainly, he knows his stuff technically, but for me, he knows his way around tournament golf. And sometimes it doesn't have to be perfect to be playing good. It's it's a really nice balance for me with Marcus, the technical side of things, and sort of the performance or mental side of things as well around tournament golf.
That's cool. He's a cool cat. I like him. You mentioned your caddy. Have you got like the same caddy for all events, or is it have you got different caddies? How does that work?
Yeah, I normally have the same caddy. So this year was a little bit funny. I had a Kiwi guy who was caddying for me, and then he sort of made the decision around COVID not to come up to the UK for those events. And I actually had a guy caddy for me, Chris Selfridge, used to caddy for Michael Hoey, but I also played Challenge Tour with him in 2015 and 2016. And unfortunately, he had a couple of injuries, and that kind of derailed his career a little bit. But he wanted to still be in the golf side of things, and he caddied for me those UK events, and it's worked really well. And it'll continue on to next year, hopefully, provided everything goes all right, COVID wise, etc., etc. But it was, I guess, nice to have him, I guess, a mate on the bag. I knew him as a player before he was a caddy or anything like that, and it was a bit of fun, those UK events. And it certainly would have been tough, if we didn't get along, because you spent a lot of time in your caddy's company in those 12 weeks away. You weren't really allowed to socialise with anyone else. Even though we're in a bubble, you were sort of socially distanced in a bubble, and the only person you were, really supposed to get close to was your caddy. And I spent a lot of time with Chris there, and we had a lot of fun and weren't too thick of each other after 12 weeks in each other's pockets. So that was pretty good, actually. Happy days.
And Stevie Williams, did he caddy for you for a bit, or was that just like a one-off, or what was the relationship there?
I've had Steve caddy for me for probably 3 or 4 events.
Okay.
He's done the New Zealand Open the last 3 years in a row for me. And unfortunately, I haven't really lived up to his reputation in a couple of those. And he caddied for me at an Aussie PGA as well. end of 2018, 2017, 2018 maybe, which is, I mean, to have someone like that on the bag is pretty awesome. No, he's very old school, and probably a little bit different than what I'd normally have as a caddy, but I think that's a pretty cool thing. And I think I spent the first week with him at the New Zealand Open just asking Tiger questions, and he was pretty open about everything, and some of the incredible shots Tiger hit, and just how good he was, for that 10-year period Stevie caddied for him. And, Steve's a great guy. I still keep in touch with him socially as well. And, he's been around the traps a little bit in the caddy world. I think he said he retired after doing it for 40 years, which is pretty impressive. And, 4 number ones in the world, including Tiger, and God knows how many wins in that time. So, the stories he had and just the experience he had, was great to learn off him.
I bet you learned a lot. What was the sort of one biggest thing you learned from him, Brian? Do you remember? Can you recall?
Oh, it's more just how positive he is and how direct. Everything for him is, okay, this is your target. This is where you got to hit it. There's no worried about what could happen, what has happened. It was just all really in the present and really, really focused on the shot at hand, which, I guess all golfers know how easy it is to get sort of your mind going and think about, other stuff, whether it's a bad swing you've made, or if I make 2 birdies, I'm going to have my best score ever. And, golf just kind of fucks with your head, for want of a better term. And, Steve is just so in that present. And, you could see why, he makes so many big calls as well. Obviously I didn't have any, big calls that he made for me as such, but I remember him calling me off a shot. I get over a shot. He goes, 8 irons perfect. And I get over it. And he goes, hold on, the wind changed. Called me off the shot just as I was about to pull the trigger. And I don't know any other caddy that would do that. And he would do the same thing to Tiger. And it just shows the attention to detail and everything that he has. And it was just nice to be able to take a little bit of that, and also just a little bit on, how Tiger practiced and stuff like that. And, practicing the impossible shots, which he then pulled off in tournaments, and everyone goes, wow. But, Tiger had actually got to a point where I don't think there was a shot that he hadn't hit in practice at some level. So he knew he could pull them off in a tournament. And it's just all those little bits of information were absolute gold, really.
Mm-hmm. Was Tiger an idol, like, growing up for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was in school. I was 13 or 14 and just joined a golf club, when in 2000 when he went mental, basically. And, he was, I remember reading, I think it's How I Play Golf book, in the early 2000s, and tried to model everything off that. So, he was a massive idol. And I do remember the first time Steve caddied for me. I mean, I shouldn't have had these thoughts, but I've, going, well, he's watched the best golf anyone's ever played, and he's got to watch me hack it around the golf course in New Zealand Open. It just didn't quite feel right. I felt a little bit probably under pressure, if anything. But, Steve put me to ease pretty quickly with that. And it was just cool to get the insights and the experience that he's had on the bag.
Yeah, I bet. It's it's Tiger obviously is I'm similar age to you, and like growing up, same sort of thing in 2000. So that's cool. Who's have you played with Tiger, or like who's the best player you've played with, and why?
I played a hole with Tiger in a practice round, which was kind of a funny experience. I was at the Open last year at Port Rush, and we're standing on the first tee, and I was playing with a couple of Aussie boys who qualified for their first major, Dimi Papadatos and Jake McLeod. And we booked an early tee time on, I think, the Tuesday. And we get down there, and the starter comes to me and goes, "I'm sorry, Mr. Fox, but we've had a little bit of a screw up with tee times. You have to book practice times for the Open." And he goes, "Oh, Mr. Woods is off now, and you'll be off at 7:50 or whatever the hell the time was." And we all look around, and Tiger's just sort of hanging at the back, leaning up against the grandstand. We've sort of gone, we didn't even know. We're like, "Oh, shit, okay." And so Tiger doesn't say a thing the whole time. He gets up, stripes his 5-wood down the middle. Marcus is there with me. He gets a good video, and we all kind of get their phones out. And then Tiger just looks up and goes, "Boys, I'm only playing the first. You can join me if you want." And Dimmy, before he's got the end of the question out, Dimmy's already said yes. And none of us are ready. And I get up on the tee, and everything's going a little bit. Hit 2-iron sort of in the left rough and hack it onto the green and 2-putt or 3-putt for bogey. And I had a brief chat to Tiger walking up the hole and asked him, what he thought of the course. And he thought, he said he thought it was really good and blah, blah, blah. And then he had his 9-iron to 4-foot, tapped it in for birdie and said, "Good luck, boys. Have a good week," and walked off. So it was kind of a strange experience, pretty cool experience as well. But I guess in the tournament, the best player I've played with is DJ. I played with him at Abu Dhabi my first year on tour in 2017. On the Saturday, I got paired with him and Ricky Fowler, which was a sort of welcome to the European Tour group. And DJ shot 64 like it was absolutely nothing, and made golf look ridiculously easy, as he seems to have done over the back end of this year as well. So that was a pretty cool experience, and I didn't disgrace myself. I think I had a bogey-free 69 that day, and I beat Ricky, who had 71. So it was a pretty good day all around. I think it might have been my birthday or the day before my birthday that day as well. So it was a pretty cool experience. I think it might have been my 30th birthday actually that day. So it was a pretty cool, pretty good way to celebrate that.
Love it. Interesting stuff. Good stuff. In downtime, your sort of hobby, from what I can see, one of your hobbies is fishing. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about fishing. As a non-fisherman, I don't get it. I don't get why. Where's the fun in it? So tell me about it. Why? Why is that your hobby, and what's so great about it?
To be honest, I don't really know. I always fished as a kid. I used to fish with my granddad, and then my dad used to take me fishing when I was a kid because I used to pester him about it, but he hates it. And then I kind of forgot about it when I was like 15. And then my wife's family has a beach place in the Bay of Islands in New Zealand, which is about 3 hours north of Auckland. And in the first few months that we were going out, 12 or 14 years ago or whatever the hell it was, I went up to the Bay of Islands with them, and her dad was a bit of a fisherman. And he took me out then, and I sort of found my passion for it again, and sort of haven't looked back, I guess, in that regard. Got properly obsessed with it. And I guess for me, I love being out on the ocean. I think that's probably it for me. And I like the challenge of it. I don't fish with bait. I fish with lures, so pieces of plastic or metal, and try to fool the fish in that regard. So I like sort of the challenge of it and trying to catch fish. I actually don't particularly like I'm not a massive fan of eating them. I like sashimi and I like certain fish and stuff like that, but I'd probably rather have a steak than a fillet of fish. But I just love the challenge of catching them. And I guess the second part of it for me is it's an escape. And I think if you talk to most sports people, they need an escape. And I know it sounds weird for golf because, for most people, golf is an escape from work. But, for me, if I go out fishing, I can forget about everything to do with golf and I can just fish. I can be completely at peace no matter how bad a run I've had playing golf or whatever. I can go out on the ocean with my mates and talk a bunch of crap and, try to catch some fish and enjoy the challenge of trying to catch them, enjoy trying to catch big fish. And I'm not worried about keeping big fish. I just take a photo with it and throw it back. And I guess that's it for me, was just, the escape of it. And then, the challenge of it. I know lots of other guys have surfing or music, Eric Van Rooyen's mad into the guitar, and I've got a little bit of that. I play guitar a little bit and a bit of drums and stuff like that. And guys like George Corsair, Rafa Cabrera Bay are mad into surfing, and that's their escape. And that's just what you just need. You just need something like that, and fishing happens to be it for me.
Love that. Love that. I think, yeah. You're busy all the time, aren't you? So having that just get away, it can just get, switch off from everything is key.
Yeah, it is. And it does, as I said, it sounds weird because golf is an escape for a lot of people. But, personally, when you do as good as awesome as golf is, as fun as golf is, if you do it every day and think about it every day, it's going to get on your nerves. And I'm sure everyone that's listening, everyone that's played around the golf has got frustrated with it at some point. And again, if you turn it into a job, that frustration can get out of hand. So it is nice having that escape and something else to do. And for me, that just happens to be fishing.
Love it. It's funny, talking of the escape and your hobbies, one of my biggest sort of hobbies escape is stock car racing in the UK. So it's quite a big...
You'd get along with Steve. Well, he loves that back. Steve Williams loves that back here.
Yeah, because Auckland is like, they've got like a massive team there. They're like really good, I think, haven't they?
Yeah, we've got two big tracks in Auckland.
Yeah.
And I've actually been and watched Steve race there when he won the Auckland Champs.
Oh, no way.
So it's pretty cool. He's a pretty talented driver, and I get the adrenaline rush that brings. Fishing doesn't quite have the adrenaline rush, but I think I probably don't need that adrenaline rush all the time.
No, I'm sure. Well, one of my dreams is like we send a team over from GB to play or to race in the team champs. I think it's January, Feb. So my goal is definitely to get over there one year to watch that.
Nice.
Should be good. All right, Ryan, talk to me. Let's go. Let's talk about playing sports growing up. I'm sure you know where this may be going, with having a parent who is probably he's certainly one of the greatest All Blacks of all times. He's tell us a little bit about his influence and perhaps I don't know perhaps where I'm going, but I've got two words here written down. There's legacy and there's resilience, and I see like you have a lot of resilience. You seem to be very sort of, I don't know, just like he's going far, this boy, and I like that. And I wonder if that comes from the All Blacks. And coming from Wales, loving rugby, All Blacks have sort of always been my favourite team. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I had two people in my family that represented New Zealand in different sports. So obviously my old man with the All Blacks, but my mum's father played cricket for New Zealand from 1936 to 1953. So there's definitely some sporting genes in our family, and I played a lot of cricket and rugby growing up. They were my main two sports all the way through school, and golf kind of took over as my main sport when I was 18. But I always wanted to be a sportsman growing up. It took me a little while to work out what sport that was going to be. And I guess, I was pretty lucky, to be able to learn, and I guess learn without thinking about it from people who've played sport at the top level. Dad used to caddy for me a bit, and my granddad used to, before he got ill, used to bowl to me and come and watch me at cricket and everything like that. So I sort of had that high performance stuff. I wouldn't say drilled into me, but I probably had a bit more of an idea of what sport was and how to perform at a decent level well before most people. Not that I necessarily did it, but I think I understood it a little bit better. And when Dad started caddying for me in golf, when I was sort of 17, 18, he'd come and play amateur. He'd come and caddy for me at the amateur tournaments around New Zealand, and I think I learned a lot about mental toughness. Dad was always one of the ones, he said he wasn't necessarily the most talented person, but he used to work the hardest at it. And mentally he was as strong as anyone, I think. And I might not have quite got his work ethic in some ways, but I think I certainly got or learned a lot of the mental toughness from him. And I was always really good at match play events and hated being beaten. I think that was just the environment we grew up in. We'd have massive table tennis, anything battles between me and Dad, even when I was 10. I'd be wanting to beat Dad. And the first time I beat Dad at golf off the stick when I was about 15, I don't think he talked to me for 2 days. So that's kind of, that's what our house was always just super competitive growing up. Even when it came to eating, Dad used to eat really fast because he was from boarding school, grew up in boarding school. And if you didn't eat fast, you didn't get seconds. So it always became, I'd want to eat as fast and try to beat Dad. It wasn't a good habit to pick up growing up, but it was the competitiveness of, I guess, our family life. I was never pushed to do anything, but it was just, if we did anything, if we played pool, if we played snooker, if we played table tennis, anything was about, how good you can do something. Can you beat Dad, or can I beat Mum, or whatever? And that's what I think I just grew up in that environment. And, as you said, probably resilience, there was a little bit of that in there, right? To learn how to lose pretty quickly, because I got my ass kicked quite a few times. And, had a few really close calls in table tennis and stuff. And it took me a long time to be able to beat Dad in any of those sports, which, I guess is a pretty good learning experience for a kid, and something that I could probably take into, I guess, professional sport and professional golf going forward.
Yeah, I love that. It's that competitive edge is sort of, because you've had so many failures in losing, and like that brings in a lot of resilience.
I don't think it was toxic either. Like it was good competitiveness.
Oh yeah, sounds good.
It wasn't Dad would win at all costs and cheat or anything like that. It was apart from the golf thing, he'd always say good game if I beat him and stuff. It was learning how to win and learning how to lose and all of that stuff. But there was, just that, I guess Dad was the same, that innate want to win, and I guess more the hatred of losing. Both of us just absolutely hated losing. And golf's kind of a funny one because you lose way more than you win, and it's kind of been hard to get used to in that respect. But and all the other sports, no matter how good a day you played, if you scored 100 in cricket and you still lost, it was still a shit day.
Yeah, no, it's winning. That's the key. One of my favorite books is Legacy. I'm not sure if you're aware of that book, but it's an all black book, and it gives a lot of insights to the sort of mantras the All Blacks have. And like, what one of the mantras is like, or I think the first one is no dickheads, like in the team environment. Yeah. And I've learned so much from that book. Is there a mantra that perhaps your dad has sort of taught you, or you've read or heard about, or picked up from someone that sticks in your mind, that will go on your gravestone? Do you know what I mean?
Well, Dad's one for me growing up, and it was more about work ethic than everything else. There's probably two. And, one's a cliche, is I've got to get this right. Hard work will always beat talent if talent doesn't work hard. I think that's right.
Yeah, love that. Yeah.
That's right. And so, he was always about, no matter how talented you are at something, you've still got to put the work in. And the other one, again, along the same lines, is, and I probably like this one the most. He said, always do what you can to be the best you can be. And if you don't succeed at that, then it doesn't matter. You've done all you can. You can still you can still be proud, even if you don't succeed, because you've done everything you can. For him, the one that he wouldn't want to see is, if you don't do the work to be the best you can be, if you don't succeed, there'll always be a little what if, and the what if's the worst part.
Mm.
You know, yeah, if you try and fail, it's fine, but if you don't put enough effort in and fail, there's always that little bit in the back of your mind that, oh, I wish I'd have done this. I wish I'd have done that differently. And, you're always going to have that in sport and in life. But, Dad was always, about the working hard side of things. And, if you work hard and do everything you can and it doesn't happen, well, you can still be proud of that. But you're also giving yourself the best opportunities to succeed if you do that.
Mm. And imagine having a little daughter 10 days ago, whatever it is, that like that, the hunger for that working hard is even more important now because it's not about you anymore.
No, exactly. I don't know how that's going to play out going forward. I think it's worked both ways for people going, in sport. It gives them, sometimes that nice little distraction and kicks them on into really good things. And then I think sometimes the lack of sleep and a few other things might make it go the other way. So I guess we'll see how that goes in January. But I guess there's maybe a little bit of extra pressure, a little bit of extra motivation. I don't know how to term it, to do all that work, and probably a bit more of a balancing act as well, because I obviously want to spend time at home and see my daughter and everything like that. So we'll probably got a little bit to learn going into next year, but lots of exciting stuff. And hopefully I come out on the good side of fatherhood and it sort of takes that next step further in the golf career. But I guess we'll see what happens.
I'm sure you will. Just carry on being you, and you just be just fine, I'm sure. Ryan, just to finish off, very conscious of time. I just want to just dive into practice and putting specific, if we can, just because that's what I do, and it is the Read It, Roll It, Hold It podcast at the end of the day. So
you probably picked the wrong person for that if you've looked at my putting stats.
Well, that was something I was going to ask you, is like the practice for putting, and then obviously you got close to, I say your goal, I don't know your goal, but you've got close to being really good, and like you hit the long ball, how do you hit it so far? I want to know that as well. But then what's missing your game? Obviously it's fine margins, but what's missing, and then how are you going to practice?
The putting's what's missing. Okay. I guess for me, I've probably never enjoyed putting as much as the other stuff as well. So I find putting practice a bit more of a chore. Mm. And I also find for me, I don't get much out of, like, I'll take it back to like hitting shots on a range. I could hit 100 good shots on a range and take it out on the golf course, and I don't feel that confident if I've hit 100 good shots on the range, but I could hit 2 shots exactly how I want to on the golf course, and I feel really good about it. Mm-hmm. And that's where I get my confidence from. So I do a lot of my practice on the golf course in that regard. And I'm not sure I've kind of figured out how putting fits into all of that. That, again, I don't feel like I could hold 100 3-footers in a row on the putting green, but I've never felt that translates that well onto the golf course for me. So I've probably got a little bit to work out going forward in that regard. But yeah, if I just trying to figure out the putting side of things, I've always had probably quite a lot of face rotation in my stroke, which has made it really inconsistent. And earlier this year, I went to the arm lock just to try to take some of that rotation out and just purely to try something different. And that worked. That's worked a lot better. And for me, I never felt like I needed to be the best putter, but if I could just turn myself statistically into an average putter, just middle of the pack, I would compete and, I'll be there or thereabouts a lot more than I have been. And I felt like this year, for the most part, with the arm lock later in the year, that was true. I did have a couple of bad weeks with it and struggled a little bit speed-wise at times, but I felt like at least taking some of that face rotation out with that lock on the arm, I started a lot more putts online, felt a bit more solid in the shorter ones, and that translated into not necessarily lower scores, but a lot more consistent scores, especially through that UK swing. And I did have a couple of blowouts. US Open, I really struggled on the greens as soon as they got fast. It was the only greens I'd putted on all year that were really, really quick, and arm locks are generally really heavy. And I felt like I couldn't take the putter back short enough on a 5 foot putt to actually to hit it soft enough to give it a chance to hold it. And that was a really scary place to be. And I think I took that into the next couple of weeks after that. But for the most part, I was more middle of the road putting. Had a couple of weeks where I was probably in the top third of the field on the greens. And if you took my ball striking stats over the last 4 or 5 years, they've generally been pretty consistent. Even 2019, where I had a little bit of a poor run of it, my ball striking stats were still not that bad compared to how I felt like I was hitting it. So just if I can unlock that putter a little bit more, hopefully there's a few more good things to come.
Thank you for your honesty there. That's it's good to hear. One of the best players in the world here. We're amateur golfers. A lot of people listening here, and they struggle with the putting and the mental side. And to hear your honesty there, but it's good that you're aware of it, right? It's weak, so you're gonna work hard and improve it. So that's cool. What's sorry, go on.
I was just going to say the one for me is to try to find that happy medium between trying to get it on the golf course and get some confidence in it and actually do the technical work on the stroke, which you have to do on the putting green, which is the stuff that I find mentally the hardest to deal with, the one that I find the hardest to get motivation for at times.
I think, it can be boring, can't it? Like start there with a mirror or a mat or a gate and repeatedly hit it through and through the gate. It can drive you.
It can get really frustrating too.
Frustrating, but just bloody boring. So making it fun and creative is key. What's your do you like creative games? What do you play on the putting green that's sort of fun? I know you're saying it's not fun, but
the one I used to enjoy the most, and I don't do it as much anymore because tour golf doesn't really work like that, but just the old, we used to do a lot of 72 hole putting comps. 9 holes, we had 9 holes on the putting green, go there and back twice, or there and back 18, there and back 18, and best cumulative score 1. And that was just purely, that got back to that competitive nature that I had growing up, where I didn't matter how I was going to do it, I was going to beat the other guys that I was doing it with, and that doesn't happen as much on tour. So I probably lost a little bit of that. But I guess the drills that I do a lot, I do sort of a around the world one, which 3 foot, 6 foot, 9 foot at 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And if you hold it, you move forward. If you miss it, you go back. So you can be as nasty as you like and put it on a massive slope and be there for an hour, or you can be kind of nice and put it on a flat area and get it done in sort of 10 or 12 minutes. And I think I've only ever got it done once, where I've gone the whole way through and hold every putt. And it's one of those ones, it's nice to do as much tournament conditions as you can, full routine and everything like that, and do it properly. So those are the kind of stuff that I do. I did a little bit of the putting games like that with especially Michael Campbell earlier this year in the UK swing. He was a little bit like me. He likes the idea of the competitive practice, and so him and I would have a few chipping comps and a few putting comps for dinners and stuff like that. And that was really nice to break up the monotony of that practice. And in terms of technical stuff, I do a fair bit of string line stuff and just putter gate drills to make sure the strokes sort of tracking the right way. And I've messed around with putters all over the place, as well as I guess most tour pros have done over the years. So for me, sometimes changing a putter is as good as doing a bunch of practice, just looking down at something different. Gets rid of all the old demons that the previous putter had, and It's funny how it works sometimes like that, and then again that might disappear after 2 weeks. But if you've had a really good week with a new putter, it doesn't really matter.
Sure. It's interesting when you were saying, excuse me, when back as a kid you were playing putting comps, and like it brings back that competitive nature of like against your dad, just want to just kick his ass. I bet you weren't thinking of technique on those shots, right?
No, you think of where you want to start it, and everything else, and that's the hard thing. Obviously you need to work on, or golf in general, the technical side of things is important because that makes it easier to repeat it. But you've also got to have you've got to turn it into some kind of reaction. Golf's the only sport where you've got to start everything. Everything else, cricket, rugby, tennis, whatever, you react to what comes at you. Whereas golf, you've got, you're almost trying to make it a reaction, whereas you pick your targets and you react to your targets and make it unconscious. And that's what those games kind of do. And sometimes it's really hard to get that on the golf course if you're really struggling with something, to get there and go, okay, I just want to, there's my line, that's where I want to start it, and just focus on that instead of like, oh, where's the ball on my stance, or what am I doing stroke wise, blah blah blah. So yeah, that's what I enjoyed the most out of those drills. It was more, it gets you completely out of your own head and purely into, I'm just going to beat this dickhead.
Yeah.
Regardless of how many bad putts I hit or not, I'm going to find a way to get it in the hole.
You want him to buy you dinner.
Yeah, exactly. And thankfully, I did win a few off Cambo, which was nice. I probably owe him a couple as well.
Happy days. In the last lockdown, we spoke to one of our junior online lessons, spoke to Paul Dunn, and he says he has the most wonderful chipping comps with Padraig and Shane Lowry. And they put 100 euro in, and you should join them, man. Like they'll let you.
I've seen all three of their short games, and I need a little bit of work, or else I'll lose a lot of money.
That's a good reason to get good quick, then.
yeah, it is.
Happy days. Right, I'm conscious of your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed that today. Thank you very much. Really glad to hear you're enjoying being a father. Get some sleep. And
I'll be trying. I'll certainly be trying.
Brilliant. Well, thanks a lot. And good luck for the season coming.
Thanks, Ollie. Appreciate it. Hopefully everything gets back to normal COVID-wise, and we can have a normal season and life can get back to normal.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Thanks, okay. Have a good one.
Cheers, mate. Have a good one.
Thanks. Bye-bye.